going back to Luke 22 and 30, he says that what? Let's start at 28. Ye are they which have continued with me in my temptations, and I appoint unto you a kingdom as my Father hath appointed unto me, that ye may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom and sit on thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. When you look at this word for table, all right, we're going to sit directly at the table with Yahweh Shai, judging the matters of the whole entire planet Earth. Okay, the word table is trapeza. A table on which food is placed, an eating place. Now we know that we're going to eat and drink with him, but more importantly, this table symbolizes the table in which the priest sat, handling the affairs of the nation of Israel, taking in all of the increase, the goods, the first fruits that will come to the temple would all be given unto the priest. So it says the table in the temple at Jerusalem on which the consecrated loaves were placed, right? And it says the table or stand of a money changer, where he sits exchanging different kinds of money for a fee and paying back with loans or deposits. Now, when we go to the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter and the 12th verse, now remember, these are the blessings. We got to remember to tap into these blessings. Yeah, we know the curses are from Deuteronomy 28:15 on down, but when you read the blessings, you get insight into what we are getting ready to inherit. Now, one of the things that Yahweh Shai said that we just read is that we're going to sit at his table with him, judging the affairs of the 12 tribes of Israel, setting everything in order, being at the forefront, all right, of establishing forever in paradise. Deuteronomy 28:12, Yahweh shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and everything is going to flourish, everything is going to be on point, won't be any drought, right? The seasons are going to come in perfection, everything will flourish, no GMOs, right? And to bless all the work of thine hand, and thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. Read that in the NLT. It says you will lend to many nations, but you will never need to borrow from them. So when you understand the kingdom of heaven and being a priest after the order of Melchizedek, which is Yahweh Shai, we are going to be the bankers of the nation of Israel. We're going to be the bankers of the whole world. But see, we're going to deal in righteousness. And we will be able to lend to heathen. We will be able to deny loans. We will be at the forefront of how everything flows throughout the whole four corners of the earth. The Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. See, and this is what's promised unto us under Yahweh Shai's kingdom. Joint heirs of what? Being at the forefront of creation. Being at the forefront of setting everything back in its proper perspective, putting everything where it needs to be. All right, from trees to, everything that you can imagine. And we're going to do this in new bodies.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Yahushua Bahashim Makakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hope elect out there pushing in word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua Bahashim Makakwadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers and listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua. All right, and what I want to get into this lesson, is dealing with the roster for Jacob's trouble. Okay, the roster for Jacob's trouble, because we know that we're at the end of this thing. All right, and we know certain prophecies have to play out, and there's a time spoken of in the Bible known as Jacob's trouble. Okay, and understanding the circumstances that we're in when our enemy Esau Edom, okay, our chief enemy in the earth, okay, is in the peak of his power. All right, and there's things are beginning, to backfire on this devil with his agenda. Okay, the Lord is intentionally making this man frustrated, you see, and he's going to wild out, all right, on the citizens, okay, of America, man. The citizens of the world, but mainly the citizens of America, all right, to enforce this new world order. And in the midst of that, he's going to be getting at Jacob in a way that he's never got at Jacob before. And our people have no clue. And this rivalry, okay, goes all the way back to the book of Genesis. Okay. And that's why even now, understanding the dynamic of Jacob and Esau, all right, could be life-saving. As you see in these latter days, our people are being caught up, still trusting this devil. Okay. Jake being put to death. All right. The nigga woman going on, dates with Edomites, not coming back. Okay. Jake hanging around Edomites and getting isolated and being put to death. Okay. And that's Esau showing his true nation. Okay. And our people think just because they're not in chattel slavery. Okay. Just because it's not like the movie Roots. Okay, real time, that these devils don't have that same hatred. No, their hatred is there, it never left. Okay, and the Lord is stirring that hatred back up. Now you look at the leadership, okay, of Esau in these last days. Okay, Trump, Pete Hegseth, okay, Stephen Miller, whatever that nigga name is, man. This nigga Mark Rubio. Okay. Well, the Lord has a roster for Jacob's trouble. We're going to get into those guys, man, a little bit. But let's go here. Let's get some precepts, and then we'll segue, into some information. But when you go, to Genesis 27 and 41, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. Okay? And see, our people, as we're telling you that we are the people, the chosen people, we are the people of the Lord's blessings. Okay? We are the inheritor of the promises of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. You see, and what you Israelites don't understand, you don't have to believe in the blessings for Esau to hate you. Okay? And then you get into the higher ups of these Edomites, they know that you're the chosen people. They know you have a blessing in this new world order. All right, part of this new world order is to prevent us from getting our blessing. Esau trying to bless himself. Okay, so transition from this his old system to trying to establish a new system, man. He's going to get at Jacob, man. Okay, so you Israelites, whether or not you believe the blessing or not, why you're spending most of your time mocking and your Hebrew Israelite testimony, part 48, you see, while you're concerned with that, well, your enemy is booting up. Okay, this devil, I say the Lord's intentionally making this man frustrated, and this man is going to be like a madman, sparing none, because the Lord wants Jacob's trouble, because he has a remnant of people he's going to deliver and show his power in the midst of Jacob's trouble. And then there's All right, 2/3 he's going to judge in the midst of Jacob's trouble, man. Okay, and you read verse 42, it says, and these words of Esau, all right, it says, and these words of Esau, her eldest son, were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob, her youngest son. Okay, so, and it shows you because Rebekah, the one that set up the play through the spirit had Rebekah to set up a play where Jacob would be the one that will get the birthright and the blessing, which it was his anyway. In the spirit, we went into that, several times. Okay, but yeah, Rebekah, the spirit was on her. All right, to set up a play for Jacob to get the blessing. And then she said, it says, and these words of Esau, her eldest son, were told to Rebekah, which means Rebekah had someone spying on that nigga Esau, man. She did not trust that nigga, man. Hey, shout out to Rebekah, man. One of our beloved foremothers, man. Hey, she had a spy on that nigga Esau, man. Okay, she did not like that nigga, trust that nigga, man. Okay, it says, and she sent and called Jacob, her youngest son, and said unto him, behold, thy brother Esau is touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. So she put Jacob on game. Like, look, this nigga is comforting himself by purposing to kill thee. You see, and their hatred has never left. You see, and that's one thing we have to understand. I say our people think just because, they work with these Edomites, they laugh and joke and, get promotions, and you see, they think that they're able to be a judge, and you see, a mayor and a chief of police, and Jake think that their hatred isn't there. All right, but when you go to the book of Amos, chapter 1 and verse 11. All right, this is the book of Amos, chapter 1, verse 11, said, thus said the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Al-Shai, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. So the hatred from back in Genesis never went away. And that's why you look at the history of Jacob and Esau. Okay, it's been nothing but a ride, man. You see, when we came out of Egypt, okay, who was the first nation to, to antagonize us, man, to attack us? Okay, it was Amalek, man, Edomites. You see, when the Babylonians took us down, who was there? Okay, helping the Babylonians, man. You see, it was Esau. Okay, when Esau came in the power of the Greeks, well, what did he do to Jacob, man? Hey, he terrorized Jacob, man. Let's go to the book of Maccabees. That's why he had the Maccabean revolt. Okay, that was response to, Esau forcing Hellenization. Okay, terrorizing Jake. He will lose. Back then, the devil, when he will lose a war, okay, especially under Antiochus Epiphanes, man. All right, especially under that demon. You see, he they'll lose a war, and he will come what? Terrorize Jake. And it's the same situation today, man. The Lord got him losing a war abroad, okay? And who you think he's going to take that anger out on, man? Okay? The most, you see? And it says, because he did pursue him with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually. Okay? Perpetually is ongoing. And he kept his wrath forever. And see, our people, under the oppression, okay, that the devil, is different. These modern Edomites are different. No, man, this same hatred is there, and it's starting to surface. Because one thing about this Trump character, he has emboldened a lot of these Edomites, man. Okay, to be proud to be Edomites and not to be ashamed of how they came into power. You see, and we're gonna get into, a few things when you go. Let's go here. Let's get this in the book of Luke. Let's get this in Jeremiah first. So you go to the book of Jeremiah chapter 30. Okay, and 7. Well, I start at 6. It's Jeremiah 36. It says, ask ye now and see what a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Okay, showing you how bad it's going to be. Okay, it's going to be some very serious times coming up. Okay, and then we don't have the hedge of Yahweh by Shemal Shah, man. It's just going to be a terror out here, man. This time is going to be a terror unto you, man. Okay, but the Lord, said we will laugh at famine. So the Lord going to have, provisions for his elect. We're going to be tested. We're going to be tried. We're going to go through uncomfortable moments, man. But it's going to be nothing like what the 2/3 is getting ready to go through, man. Okay, and this is going to be their worst time ever. Okay, in the earth, man. We're going to be witnessing these things, man. We're going to be amongst these things. Okay, verse 7 says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Okay, and then he that shall be saved out of it, the remnant. Okay, there's an elect that the Lord's going to save out of Jacob's trouble. Okay, and that's our hope, man. And this is why with this grace period, we've been constantly warning and telling our people the circumstances they're in, man. Constantly going into the narrative of Jacob and Esau, man. That's a heavy part of the doctrine, is going into that dynamic of Jacob and Esau, man, because all prophecy is centered around that dynamic, man. Because even when you go to Hebrews, that's why Jacob and Esau come up all throughout the Bible. You see, this way in the back of the book, Hebrews 11, and it's still Hebrews 11 and 20 said, by faith Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. You see that? So Jacob was blessed with the fatness of the world, okay, the dew of heaven. All right, these heathens and servants. Okay, then Esau was blessed with a similar blessing. You see, but what was mentioned within the blessing of Esau was what? Their sword. Okay, because Esau would come into power with the sword, and he would maintain his kingdom by the sword, and he's going to go out. Because hey, what did Yahweh Shah say? If you live by the sword, you shall perish by the sword. Okay, so Esau, he's getting ready to go out with that sword too, and he's going to go out swinging that sword. All right, and mainly at Jake, man. Okay, because his ability to impose his will on other nations is dwindling. Okay, but when he turned this AI and these, this technology, okay, on citizens, man, okay, it's going to be a slaughter. Okay, and he was blessed with that sword for these times. Okay, and ultimately it's going to be Yahweh Shah. It's going to completely disarm this man, all right, once and for all. Okay, so let's go. Let's go here. Let's go to the book of Luke, and then we start getting into this roster, man. All right, so you go to the book of Luke, chapter 19. It's the book of Luke, chapter 19, verse 41. It says, and when he came near, this Yahweh Shai, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, if thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. Okay? And Jake don't understand the things that belong to their peace. Okay? Because right now, Jake is still, chilling. You see, right now, Jake can play the PlayStation, so he can go to the club, so he can, do 20-piece wing. Okay? Chase Keisha over the city. Jake is cool right now. A nigga woman, she, still could be a little local celebrity and okay, get a few DMs, turn a trick or two. You see? So Jake chilling. Or whatever Jake's situation is, man. But they don't understand what's in the play. They don't understand the circumstances they're in. They don't understand the situation that they're in, man. They don't understand that they're in the worst case scenario. Okay? Verse 43. So Yahushua says, I read 42 again, it says, saying, if thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong to thy peace, but now are they hid from thine eyes, for the day shall come upon thee that thy enemy shall cast a trench about thee and compass thee round and keep thee in on every side. Now, this began with 70 AD. Okay, this happened in 70 AD and it's getting ready to happen again on a much massive scale. Okay, Jake can have to deal, which all Americans finna go through suffering, man. There's gonna be an emphasis on Jake. Okay, and be cut off from access to food. Because who you think is going to be cut off from access to food and electricity and water first, man? Okay, who do you think these mercenaries have? Okay, these orders to go get first. You see, verse 44 says, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knowest not the time of thy visitation, man. And that's because our people ignore the prophets, man. Here it is, the prophets are constantly telling our people back to back to back. Okay? Every day, man. Constantly sounding the alarm. Okay? For 2/3, they're finna get caught up. Okay? In this time of trouble with no hedge. You see? Because why? They know it's not the time of thy visitation. They're not observing the times. You see? They're not taking heed to the warning. Okay? And that's why it's going to be, it's going to be like all of a sudden. You see, it's going to seem like it's all of a sudden to Jake, man. Okay? So let's go from there. I want to go into a few things. Now let's deal with this guy, Pete Hegseth. Okay, and keep hearing these guys, because one thing we know, that the lineup that we see in the White House, it ain't built for let's get the word roster first, because when it comes to foreign war, all right, this roster is trash. Donald Trump, all right, a third generation coward. Okay, and then you got Pete Hegseth. Okay, those two men, you see, they're not meant, okay, to win no goddamn wars, man. Okay, but what they can do is wreak havoc, all right, back home here in America, man. And that's what they're getting ready to do. It says a roster. It says a roster. It says a roll or list of personnel. Such a list, all right, given the order in which a duty is to be performed, all right, a duty or roster. Okay, and we know these devils have a duty to bring Jacob trouble. Okay, that's what the Lord's going to allow them to do. All right, certain things that these devils want to do, they're not being allowed to do it. Okay, but there's particular things that the Lord's going to allow them to do in their attempt to establish this new world order. Okay, so when you go from there, let's look at the roster. All right, so let's deal with this guy first. Pete Hegseth. All right, so I asked, and this just, Google. Okay, and I said, let me go back up. I said, does Pete Hegseth has ties to white nationalism? It said Pete Hegseth does not have documented direct ties to former white nationalist groups, but his religious ideology, past rhetoric, and tattoos have drawn intense scrutiny and accusation from civil rights experts regarding Christian nationalism and symbols co-opted by extremists. Okay, it said tattoos and military flagging. It said Jerusalem cross and dust vault. Hegseth has a chest tattoo of a Jerusalem cross and a Latin phrase dust vaults, which means God wills it. Okay, because you got ideology where these devils think that they are the chosen people, man. Okay, they think the Americans and Edomites are a chosen brand of Edomites by the Most High, man. Okay, they believe it. You see, and now it was even Pete Hegseth told them, told the American troops, man, look, this war that we in, this is the Lord's war. This is Armageddon, which he's right. Okay, but the way they think it's going to turn out in their favor is completely off, man. You see, it says Hegseth has a chest tattoo of a Jerusalem cross and the Latin phrase, which Latin goes back to what? Rome. Okay, Deus Vult, all right, which God wills it, which refers to the Christian Crusades. It says a fellow service member flagged these tattoos to a superior as a potential white nationalist or extremist indicator, which contributed to Hegseth being removed from a National Guard security detail for the 2021 presidential inauguration. So here it is. This nigga's on the National Guard security detail in 2021. In 2026, he's leading, all right, the American military. He's the top guy under Trump in the American military. Okay, a goddamn National Guard security detail. Okay, you devils are set up to fail, because as we know, the elites are the ones that okay wars and manipulate and provoke these wars. Okay, but they're not in the war rooms day to day carrying out these plans. That's what they got these other Edomites for. Okay, the elites are not micromanaging. They don't micromanage these wars. They give agendas, all right, to their do boys, and their do boys carry them out. Okay, Trump, all these are do boys, man. You see, Hegseth, he's nothing but do boys for the elites, because the American military is nothing but the mercenaries of the elites, mainly the Rothschilds, man. Okay, so you got this guy Hegseth, a national security detail in 2021 to now. All right, he's a Secretary of Defense, or they changed to Secretary of War. Okay, so Hegseth response. Hegseth has strongly denied these. Let's go here. Religious affiliation and Christian nationalism. It says Hegseth belongs to a congregation under the Confederation of Reformed Evangelical Churches, all right, a conservative church network. Co-founders and prominent figures in his church network, such as Pastor Doug Wilson, identify with Christian nationalism, hold hardline traditions or patriotic views, and have maintained relationship with Pete Hegseth, including giving a guest sermon at a Pentagon worship service hosted by Pete Hegseth. All right, it says in his book American Crusade and various media appearances, Hegseth has frequently used combative religious language, lamented changing demographic trends, and criticized Muslim immigration, arguing that it threatens traditional Western and Christian values. It says, let me go here. I think I asked something else. Thought I did. Oh, here you go. I said, could white Christian nationalism be linked to the ideology of the KKK? It says white Christian nationalism shares a clear, documented ideological lineage with the Ku Klux Klan, specifically the Second Klan of the 1920s. Historians and sociologists emphasize that while modern white Christian nationalism is a decentralized ideology rather than a terrorist fraternal order, the core theological and political arguments used to justify both movements are remarkably similar. Okay, historical, all right, commonalities. It says historians specializing in religion, such as those featured by University Press of Kansas and analyzed on CNN, point to several foundational overlaps. The myth of a divine founding. The 1920s KKK positioned America as a nation uniquely blessed by God, especially pairing, all right, Protestant Christianity with white supremacy. Modern white Christian nationalism similarity, all right, relies on the narrative that the U.S. was founded as a distinctively Christian nation. Okay, when they speak about Christian, man, this that what you call the doctrine of discovery. Okay, everybody is savages, so they get to come and grape, rob, okay, and murder in the name of Jesus. Okay, to civilize all the savages and barbarians of the earth. They're doing the work of Jesus. Okay, and which we know that these devils, okay, do the bidding of Satan on the left hand side, man. Okay, which ultimately is the will of the Lord on the left hand side. Okay, but this is the ideology, okay, of the people that's in the highest offices, okay, in your nation, man. You see, it says was founded as a distinctively Christian nation whose divine favor depends on maintaining the identity, man, and that's the white, all right, Edomite, all right, male, okay, being superior. You see, and that's why you see this Edomite supremacy being pushed hard, you know, even at the White House. You know, you look at Twitter, all right, that's why you had Elon Musk, okay, doing what he was doing, you know, intentionally doing the thing, the hell Hitler, you know, which is a lot, you know, is deeper, okay, but for the sake of the optics of what he was doing, what it looked like, you know, it's just a call to white Edomite pride and so-called white nationalism, man. You see, so you got these people because you look at Twitter's X now, but ever since uh, what's the guy Elon Musk, okay, another dude boy of the elites, okay, but ever since he's taken over Twitter, okay, what it's turned into just a community of good old boys, man. It's a lot of white nationalist rhetoric, you know, because the whole freedom of speech really was towards these Edomites being able to come out and say what they want to say. Okay, and Edomites like Matt Walsh, you know, you can look him up. You know, he's heavy on that white nationalism and, you know, going into trying to romanticize, you know, the Edomites, you know, conquering and colonizing, okay, the slaughters and, you know, the grapes and the death. You see, that's what's at the forefront of the government now, man. All right, it said the second Klan grew rapidly by exploiting fears of Catholic, all right, Jewish and non-white immigration, framing these groups as existential threats to 100% Americanism. It says modern variants echo this rhetoric by shifting racial demographics and non-Christian, all right, immigration as a cultural replacement. Yeah. You know, and they still have the same rhetoric today. That's why you see a big push on immigrants. You know, immigrants are ruining, you know, the quality of life. All right, for wholesome, for wholesome Edomites. Okay, the problem with the country is these welfare queens, you know, the nigger woman and her badass kids, because they are a problem. Okay, and the immigrants, the illegals, right? And basically Southern and Northern Kingdom, man. Okay, the reason why the quality of living is dropping, not because the economic system is a scam. Okay, not because they're poisoning the air, the food, the water. Okay, not because they're sucking up the resources and the power with these data centers. Okay, and much more wickedness they're doing, forever chemicals and everything, and you can go on, but that ain't the reason. Okay, but them the $900 that Marquis should get in food stamps is the reason. Okay, the quality of life is slipping in America, man. Scientific racism that's at the forefront. Okay, of these devils, rhetoric that they're pushing these last days, man. You see, and it said the Klan. All right, it says sacred symbols and flags. Said the Klan heavily co-opted Christian practices, integrating the American flag, the Bible, and the burning cross as religious artifacts, representing a white Protestant state. Sociological studies show that modern white Christian nationalism frequently fuses civic symbols, the flag, the military. You see that? And that's what P. Hexelf is doing. The flag, the military, with religious ones to signal who truly belongs in America. Okay? And then I think this devil, P. Hexelf, all right, let's see, list of black military. Because a lot of a lot of the black military personnel, the top ranks of the military, P. Hexel got them out of there, man. Either that he fired them or he made it, very uncomfortable and they resigned, which, hey, that's a good thing anyway. All right. List of black military personnel. Let's see. Fired or resigned under P. Hexel. Let's see. Oh, now they couldn't. Oh, I bet you couldn't, nigga. Something went wrong. The content wasn't generated. Well, I'd be goddamn. I bet. I ain't gonna fight him for it. Find it another day. But yeah, that's that guy Pete Hexel, and he's all right at the head of the military. Okay, so you got that guy. And then let's go from there. Let's get Let's get this guy. Yeah. So let's get this guy here. Mark Rubio. Okay, now he's the Secretary of State. Okay. Another top guy in Trump cabinet. All right. So you get this guy, Mark Rubio, which this nigga maybe he could be a conquistador coming back because he just got this bloodlust for the Northern tribe. Just speaking as a man, all right, I wouldn't be surprised if this nigga was a conquistador coming back. All right. Now he looks, like he could be Manasseh. Okay. But he got his spirit of Edomite. Okay. Because we know, I believe it was not Cortez, but Rosario. I believe he was heavy in Cuba. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if this nigga is one of them conquistadors coming back. Marco Rubio, man. Okay. So I just asked, I said, does Marco Rubio have a disdain for the Latin countries? Speaking of the Central South America. Okay. It says U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio does not claim to have a disdain for Latin America, but critics and leftist leaders like Brazil's President Luiz, all right, Inácio, okay, have accused him of being anti-Latin America due to his aggressive pushbacks against leftist governments, and they blame it on, he blamed it on the government being left. But ultimately, uh, it's just this hatred he has for the northern tribes, where he just had this hatred for, Central South America, man. And it says the son of Cuban immigrants focuses his regional policy. It says, Rubio, the son of Cuban immigrants, focuses regional policy on opposing authoritarian regimes and left-wing politics, man. And that's their excuse. Everybody's authoritarian. Okay? Everybody just sees authoritarian dictators. Okay? As if the American government is not an authoritative dictator-style government. You see? But when you go into it, says focus on authoritarian regimes. So Rubio is a fierce critic of leftist dictatorships, specifically targeting Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, which he famously termed a trophy of tyranny. He frequently clashes with progressive and left-leaning governments in the region. And see, when they say progressive and left-leaning, these are governments that aren't fully sold out to America. Okay? When they start to demonize, different governments, these are governments that haven't fully sold out. Okay? And they begin to demonize them before they come through their coup, before they come do a regime change, a forced regime change. When they do assassination, invasion, economic upheaval, and the people overthrow the leader themselves. Okay, and they do that a lot in Central and South America, man. That doesn't go reported. Okay, Venezuela was just hyped up because America needed to look strong. So Venezuela was hyped up and marketed, in the media. But they do that all the time in Central South America, and Rubio be at the forefront. He's all about putting hell on, all right, the northern tribes, man. He says he frequently clashes with progressive and left-leaning governments in the region, criticizing figures like Brazil's, all right, Lula da Silva, and former Mexican president, all right, Andres Manuel Lopez. Okay, now listen to this. He maintains close alignment with the right of center and conservative regional leaders such as Argentina's president Javier, Milei, which those are small hats down there in Argentina. So he's cool with the small hats, but all these other Central South American countries, okay, he's all about putting hell on them, sanctions, and doing invasions and doing regime change. He's all about that, man. You go into the devil, Mark Rubio, and he's done worked his way up now to where he's Secretary of State. This is the highest position that he's ever had, all right, in the government. Okay. And you can look more into it, man, but just going to show you the roster that's in the White House. So you got that guy, Mark Rubio, and then you have job here. Okay. You can tell he was a straight loser, okay, in high school, and he's able to now get off because he got this high office, okay, in the White House. Now you go into, I'm gonna show a video of this nigga, man. All right, Stephen Miller, and I get his position. Now this was we've done videos on it. But this is when after Charlie Kirk died, which he was pushing that white nationalism, okay, ideology. He was going around these college campuses debating, okay, for white nationalism. When you go into this guy, you see. So this was at his funeral, which we know it's a lot of politics that was involved into that, dealing with this guy Charlie Kirk, okay. And we know that they use this to advance, legislation okay, and the rhetoric of something needs to be done, to all these extremists that's against America, that's against, you know, uh, what America stands for. You see? So let's play this. Listen to this nigga, and you look, because when I first heard it, I'm like, damn, what this nigga talking to, man? You see? But this the guy Stephen Miller. So let's play this.
When I see Erica and her strength and her courage, I'm reminded of a famous expression. The storm whispers to the warrior that you cannot withstand my strength. And the warrior whispers back, I am the storm. Erica is the storm. We are the storm. And our enemies cannot comprehend our strength, our determination, our resolve, our passion. Our lineage and our legacy hails back to Athens, to Rome, to Philadelphia, to Monticello. Our ancestors built the cities. They produced the art and architecture.
And he said what? His ancestors go back to Athens, or the Greeks. Okay, in Rome. All right, and this is Greco-Rome all over again, man. Okay, and what did the Romans do to Jake? 70 AD. That's what Yahushua, Luke 19, 41 through 43, that's what he was speaking of. Okay, so that spirit is railed back up, man. Okay, the Lord got a roster for Jacob's trouble, man. Okay, and going into Stephen Miller, just read it real quick. I'm gonna leave it up there. So what he is Stephen Miller is an American political advisor. All right, serving as White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor since 2025. So he's a Homeland Security Advisor. Okay. So what you think that he's going to paint as a threat? We're gonna listen to this speech, man, and we're gonna listen to what he paints as a threat. It says he previously served as a senior advisor to the president and director of speechwriting from 2017 to 2021 during the first Trump administration, man. So he's juiced in at the top rank. So he's advising. He's an advisor of Trump, okay, on policies, okay, and Homeland Security, man. Okay. So we're gonna listen to this speech, man, and you'll see. This will let you know that the type of advice he's giving. Okay, so let's play this.
They built the industry. Erica stands on the shoulders of thousands of years of warriors, of women who raised up families, raised up city, raised up industry, raised up civilization, who pulled us out of the caves and the darkness into the light. The light will defeat the dark. We will prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil. They cannot imagine what they have awakened. They cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in all of us. Because we stand for what is good, what is virtuous, what is noble. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness, you are jealousy, you are envy, you are hatred. You are nothing. You can build nothing. You can produce nothing. You can create nothing. We are the ones who build. We are the ones who create. We are the ones who lift up humanity. You thought you could kill Charlie Kirk? You have made him immortal. You have immortalized Charlie Kirk. And now millions will carry on his legacy. And we will devote the rest of our lives to finishing the causes for which Charlie gave his last measure of devotion. You cannot defeat us. You cannot slow us. You cannot stop us. You cannot deter us. We will carry Charlie and Erica in our heart every single day and fight that much harder because of what you did to us. You have no idea the dragon you have awakened. You have no idea how determined we will.
The dragon you have awakened. You see, the dragon you have awakened. Well, yeah, the Lord awakened that dragon. Okay, because he wants Esau to get at 2/3. But see, the dragon got to deal with Yahushua. Okay, he talking that big shit. Okay, he's a goddamn coward. He ain't gonna suit up and go across that water. Okay, but he is gonna be easy, all right, to sick. Okay, these mercenaries and these UN troops. Okay, and, you know, the AI, you know, it's gonna be easy for him to sick that on Jake though, from the comfort of, you know, some type of headquarters somewhere. Okay, but he got all this energy, but his ass ain't gonna suit up and go across that water. Okay, and when Yahweh Shah come back, we'll see then what that we're gonna see what that dragon about then. It's good that the dragon is woke, nigga. Wake up. Okay.
Will be to save this civilization, to save the West, to save this republic. Because our children are strong, and our grandchildren will be strong, and our children's children's children will be strong. And what will you leave behind? Nothing. Nothing. To our enemies, you have nothing to give, you have nothing to offer, you have nothing to share, but bitterness. We have beauty, we have light, we have goodness, we have determination, we have vision, we have strength. We built the world that we inhabit now, generation by generation, and we will defend this world. We will defend goodness, we will defend light, we will defend virtue. You cannot terrify us.
And who you think that he was talking about? He talking about Jake, man. Okay, that's a call, all right, for these good old boys to awaken. Okay, there's a call to rally around, all right, white nationalism. Okay, which we know is Edomite nationalism. But let's go here. Let's go to the book of Jeremiah. Let's get a few precepts. Okay. Let's get this in Jeremiah. Okay, 15. It's the book of Jeremiah 15, chapter 20. It's like this Jeremiah chapter 15, verse 20. It says, and I will make thee unto this people a fence, brazen wall, and they shall fight against thee, but they shall not prevail against thee, for I am with thee to save thee and to deliver thee, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Al-Shai. Okay, so the Lord has made the prophets like a fence, brazen wall. Okay, so these devils, you know, they're going to attempt to do what they're going to do. Okay, but the Lord has promised that they're not going to prevail. You know, and even there's going to be a few martyrs. All right, but that's not going to be a victory for Esau. You know, they're just going to further, okay, increase the anger of Yahushua, his return. And he's going to overturn, all right, that death sentence, man, and resurrect those that he allows Esau, you know, to unalive, to be immortal. Okay, we finna win, man. These niggas finna lose. He talking that shit, trying to hype himself up, man. You Edomites are done. Your descendants are going into slavery. Okay, your children are going to be born into slavery. That's the future for you Edomites, man. All that hoorah and that rah-rah shit, that's when it comes to a complete stop. Okay, so then I will deliver thee out of the hand of the wicked, and I will redeem thee out of the hand of the terrible, man. So our power got us, man. Okay, yeah, it sound good talking that shit amongst all them Edomites, man, but our power got us, man. Okay, that's Isaiah 59. Okay, in 19, it says, so shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him, man. See, there's a standard going to be lifted. See, a martyr, there's going to be martyrs, but then wait a minute, there's a standard going to be lifted on Esau's ass too, man. Okay, so these devils, you know, they ain't going to go like they think. When it comes to the elect, now you 2/3, you through. They finna go. They finna run the scoreboard up on you 2/3. Okay, but when it comes to the elect, man, it's gonna be a standard lifted on his ass, man. Because he's gonna come in and try to overwhelm and be overwhelming, and it's gonna be a standard lifted against his ass, man. Okay, so let's go here and call Allah Yahweh Bashim al-Shah. Okay, because he was talking about, oh, they were waking the dragon. Nigga, wake up. Okay, nigga, wake your ass up. Stop dragging your feet and do what you got to do. Okay, this is Revelation 12:7. It says, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angel fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. Yeah, so hey, the Yahweh Shai is coming back to clash with the dragon. Yahweh Shai, the heavenly host, knows Michael's going to be there. All right, the archangel, and the war is going to be in the atmosphere. Esau boasts, you know, he's still boasting in, you know, yeah, 1,000 years of warriors. Okay. We finna test that theory. Okay? The Lord gonna test that theory. You see? It says, and prevail not. Lose, nigga. They finna, Esau finna lose in everything, man. Okay? The military across the water gonna lose. Okay? The war in heaven, they're gonna lose. The war in the atmosphere with Yahweh Shai and the angels, they're gonna lose. Okay? And the landmass of America itself gonna be destroyed. Okay, and this new world order is going to be, all right, eradicated. Okay, and you heathen is going into captivity, man. Beginning with Esau, so you Edomites finna lose in everything you got going, man. Okay, it's going downhill for you Edomites, man. Verse 9 it says, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels cast out, all right, with him. Okay, and this is the devil, you know, being brought down. Okay, because right now, you know, he's on high. Okay, this is him coming to sit in the dust, confusion, him being demoted from a ruler, okay, to a slave, man. Okay, his military being brought down, his angels. It represents what? His Air Force, man. Okay, his air power, because that's been the way he dominated the earth, through this air power, man. Okay, that's going to be brought to the earth, man. That's going to be actually turned to powder. You see? So Esau's getting ready to lose, man, because he's the devil, he's a deceiver. He comes in the energy of Satan. He has the spirit of the old serpent, that enchanter. Okay, and that great dragon, which is wrong. Okay, so this dragon, yeah, this dragon was awakened just to be destroyed, man. Okay, just to be put down. Okay, verse 10 it says, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our power and the power of his anointing, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down. Because he was just up there making all those accusations, man. But that's the spirit of Esau. Okay, to blame Jake for everything. You see, to justify him wanting to eradicate, you know, Jake, man. Okay, well, he's not going to be able to do it, man. There's a standard going to be lifted on his ass, and then Yahweh Shai going to return, and he's not going to prevail. It said, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night, man. You know, so a righteous kingdom is getting ready to come. The Lord's finna, the scripture says, the saints shall take the kingdom. Okay. The scripture says, well, the kingdom of this world now, the kingdom of our Lord and his anointing, he shall reign forever and ever, man. So we're in a great transition of power. Okay, in the midst of that transition, Esau is going to wild out, and there's going to be a time of Jacob's trouble. Okay, but for the elect, there's going to be a standard lifted. Okay, and Yahweh Shai is going to return, man. You see, and that's our expectation in the midst of all this, man. So yeah, just wanted to tap into that, you know. Lord will, you know, you brothers. All right, and you sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Kakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessing, salutation to the whole collect. Shalom.